was also mentioned in the TSG2, it's not directly dealing with tourism, but connectivity is a priority as well, because it's linked with the connection of the region, of the people, transport, energy. So it's high of our list as well. Just quickly to mention TSG4, it's being coordinated by Croatia, and the main achievement is, of course, very good cooperation. We are very proud of that. But also the TSG4, the tourism, they made a set of flagship projects and issue papers. I will go very quickly through that because I'm quite sure somebody else would talk more about it. And there's a cultural roots, culture air. I mean, culture is unique, identifies all the countries, and all our countries have something to offer. And the main point of these flagships is to prolong the seasonality. We know Adria and Ionian Sea is full in June, July, but there is much more we can do to have a much longer season. Green mapping, to define and map the green offer in the region. There are tourists now, they're like, really, they're taking care if it's ecological, if it's green. This area, lifelong learning, we need to support the learning in the tourist industry. So they are very, very different. Pro-destination strategy, result-oriented destinations. What very important for tourism, cruise air. There are rivers, there are lakes, there are seas, and it can really be this almost whole year. There could be cruise air. And live in the sea, of course, digitalization, fishery heritage, diversification of tourist offer. They're all very, very important things for the seasonality. Again, I'm going to go very quickly to issue papers, Wellbeing Tourist Handbook, Gastro Tourism Handbook, and I'm quite sure somebody will tell you about storytelling. It's my completely favorite, so pay attention. It's really great thing what the tourism had done. Again, connectivity is very important. Further development of the original Adriatic Ionian transport route, very important for the whole region for connecting us. So, not to overstep my minutes, there is a program we have. As I said, we have a beautiful program, and all the points in the program are somehow connected for a conference or the roundtables or any activity. In June, 20 June, I think most of you have already got the invitation, is launching conference of the presidency of EUSAR, and it will be great. So please do join us. Tourism, there is a connected to the launching conference is conference on nautical tourism. Unfortunately, on the same day, you can't be on both places. It's a very beautiful workshop with robotics and applications. So I know there will be some small robots going under the sea. It will be certainly be fun. And the last one in this opening session is 4th and 5th of July, Strong Women for a Stronger Adriatic Ionian Region Conference. So please do come. We have a very, very big list on conferences and roundtables. So here I will just show the ones connected with tourism. In September, implementation of biodiversity strategy in the Adriatic Sea through joint solution for nature and fisheries. Again, October, November, development of green tourism products, climate plan. Sorry, it's then in autumn, conference on protection against pollution of the sea, very, very important for the region. In March, Rectors Conference on Blue Growth, Research and Innovation. And in April, the transport connectivity. The only one, it doesn't stay here, and because it's not directly connected with tourism, but it's connected with youth. In November, hopefully November 23, it's going to be a very big youth conference in Split, so you will get information on time. So I will just thank you for your attention. I do hope it was not too quick to got all the conferences, but just it will be published, the program on our pages, and you can reach to us anytime. And I do hope to see you all in Croatia at one or better at some of those events. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you. We cannot wait to enter this new chapter and give you all our support in all your activities. Thank you again. All right, I now conclude this opening session with another online speaker, Mr. Tommaso Comazzi from Nextdoor Permanent Secretariat. Good morning, Tommaso. Can you hear us? Tommaso, here he is. We see you, but we cannot hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Great.
Thank you. We know you've been busy with the Nextdoor General Assembly recently, right at the beginning of the month, where you also addressed the theme of empowering touristic destinations through the climate action and even a more collaborative governance. So please tell us more about Nextdoor next activities.
Thank you very much, Camilla. Indeed, it's really nice to be here today with you, even if online, precisely because we are working on the same direction with our community of 45 regions. And I'm very happy to share the pathway together towards a better sustainable tourism. Thank you also for the forum IC and for CPMR for inviting me, and to all the authorities that are there in Corfu. I'm very happy that this conference is organized precisely in such a beautiful island that is also a crossway between the Adriatic and Ionian, but I would say even more broadly a real crossway of the European history. Indeed, let me start with just a few figures to bear in mind that approximately 1/6 of UNESCO sites of Europe are in Adriatic and Ionian area. And another figure is that 1/5 of the top 20 tourism regions are in that area. What can we say about that figures? I think that it's clear that this area has a tremendous heritage, is plenty of history, arts, and beautiful spots to visit. And the second one is that people like to come and to enjoy that beauty. And this is something we have to take into account, of course, as tourism managers, because there is the old adage that we can hear very often in the Adriatic Ionian, and not only, of people saying we have such a beautiful environment, such beautiful places, that we could just do tourism and we would have enough to live in our country. And well, I think you all know very well that this is not possible. We cannot just live about tourism. We cannot just give our beauty available like this, because we need a good management, and we need a sustainable management. Otherwise, over tourism is always around the corner. And the other big issue is always resilience. We know very well that tourism is very sensitive about any sudden change, any small crisis, because this is particularly impacting the local and the regional level where tourism is happening. And the last very necessary ingredient is cooperation. We cannot just promote our own destination or just think about a strategy for our destination without cooperating with others, learning from best practices, and working together. And in one word, Nextdoor is there to help regional tourism authorities to face all those challenges. We are indeed a network of European regional authorities that are committed to develop together interregional projects to promote cooperation and enable through this sustainable tourist governance in Europe. How? Well, linking all the levels of tourist governance and cooperating with the other regions and initiatives. And this is particularly important now in this specific phase. We have heard from the previous interventions, and especially Ms. Priante, that recovery is already a reality after the pandemic. So it's not about if recovery is coming or not, this we have, but it's about how to make it sustainable, because we have seen that as we can having immediately good numbers, we can also immediately have again bad numbers. So we need to be more resilient, to be more ready to face again new crises. And I think the crisis of Ukraine, the climate change, there are many that are already unfortunately hitting and challenging our sector. I think the title of this conference is very much appropriate, from crisis to transformation. And if you allow me, I would like to use the few minutes that I have precisely to focus on two questions. What we have learned from the crisis, what the crisis has told us, and what transformation means for next tour. So about the first point, so what we can learn from the crisis. Here we have a map of our regions, of our members. We are a community of 45 tourist regional authorities, and we have only one single voice. That's what we try to do, to advocate towards a more sustainable tourism. And this is a process that is ongoing and is part of our DNA since already many years. And it was already in 2018 when drafting our new strategy that our regions has identified already resilience as a key challenge for tourism, regional and local authorities. And that's why it has been already part of our strategy since that time, before COVID. So that when COVID then arrived, we were ready. We were, of course, in the middle of a big crisis, but at least we were having a vision. And we have put this vision at the service of those regional authorities that were struggling to recover, but to think in a longer term perspective and to inspire what then was developed by others, like, for example, the European Commission that precisely in 2021 released the European Agenda for Tourism 2050, so with a long-term perspective. And we have drive the creation of that agenda and offer our perspective, our vision as regional authorities. And then we are now in the process of going one step further. Already last year, during the General Assembly 2022, we have reflected with our regional authorities on how to accelerate the destination resilience, because we see as the only way to build the tourism of tomorrow in a way that we can be aligned with not just the recovery goals, but also the initiatives of the European Commission and the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And we have decided to launch a new strategy with a long-term perspective from now until 2030. That, of course, is fully aligned with what also the European Commission is doing, meaning the European transition pathway. So as next tour with our regions, we have made our pledge and we have committed and we have inspired the 27 topics that are at the base of the tourism transition pathway. And then we have took those that were more aligned with our DNA, with what was already done, and we align them with the tourism transition pathway of the European Commission. But this is only the first step. The second and the most important is precisely what we have initiated last week with our General Assembly. And this is replying to the second question. And so what transformation means? Because it's clear that now, after the pandemic, we have to turn page and we have to build tourism in a better way. We have to transform, but we believe that talking about sustainable tourism as before is now too clear, is something that everybody is using, but probably not committed enough. And as a European network of regions, our regional authorities has identified the communities as the essential ingredient. And I think you will understand me very well, because the Adriatic and Ionian territory is particularly, the element of communities is particularly important. And this is something of the history and the tradition of many of that places. And working for the well-being of our communities and make our communities flourishing is something that should be a priority, and tourism then should become a mean to achieve that flourishing communities through a development of policies that are going in the way of responsible tourism. So that's our vision, our principle that will be at the basis of our new strategy, and is coming from our DNA and is translated into actions. So if you want to join our work and the work of the Adriatic Ionian regions that are already part of our networks, this is focusing especially on 3 pillars. First is measurements. We have a Tourism of Tomorrow Lab that is advising and supporting European regional authorities that are willing to measure sustainable tourism in order then to take the effective decisions based on sounding data. The second is decarbonizing. We are among the first signatories of the Glasgow Declaration, and we are now leading our regions in drafting and delivering climate action plans in their DMOs. Towards decarbonization, and then is about regeneration. So is going beyond sustainability, is really also taking tourism as an opportunity to regenerate our destinations and our local communities. And we will work very much about benchmarking and sharing best practices in all that 3 pillars. Then before was mentioned very much about skills. This is also something important, not just for young people, but also for professionals. So that's why as a network of regions, we offer also capacity building for our members, for the regional authorities, in order on how to develop and make tourism a catalyst for prosperous and sustainable communities. Through our collective work. And the last point is about youth funding, because it's never easy to get youth funding. There is not a direct funding for tourism. Tourism is in many programs. So we are very happy for having been cited as a good example for the last MFF by a report that was analyzing the best practices on Interreg, Adrian, and CBC Med, precisely giving advice and making possible that good cooperation and good winning European consortia on new funds were possible. And we are very happy that we are doing this in cooperation with many of the organizations that are here today. First of all, the IC Forum, which is a member of us, also CPMR and the Adriatic and Ionian Euro region. We are partnered together of a Euromed project called Communities for Tourism, which precisely is aimed to bring and capitalize the main outcome of the ongoing Euromed program. And working on a second edition of a handbook that we already released in the previous MFF, and now we will further develop precisely for regional authorities on how to build winning and successful projects through youth funding. And then we need a joint commitment with all of us, with the Adriatic and Ionian Initiative, with USAID, with UNWTO, and most of all, with all of you. Because if we want to create flourishing community through responsible tourism, all the Adriatic and Ionian regions are needed. The AI-NURECC Plus Initiative should lead us in this direction. And that's why I'm happy to be the last, precisely to wish to all of you a pleasant discussion in the roundtables that will follow me and to reflect precisely about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tommaso. We will for sure keep an eye on your next activities. And at the end of the day, we're just one community aiming at the same results and working together in order to reach them. All right, so we reached the end of this institutional greeting and opening session for this morning. Are there any questions for the speaker except for Mrs. Priante, who sadly has to leave us? Are there any questions at all? Nope. Right. Then the conference will now continue with the first roundtable focused on the Adriatic and Ionian macro-regional strategy for tourism, with a discussion on what has been done and what is still to be done. And then after a light lunch to which you are all very kindly invited, we will have a second roundtable on the cruise sector and more in general, waterborne transports. Our speakers will analyze the impact of the COVID pandemic, but also on a lighter note, the green developments of the sector. So I invite you all to stay until the very end so as not to miss all the interventions. I now pass the floor to Mrs. Renata Tomljanovic from Croatian Institute for Tourism, who will be moderating the next session, and also all the speakers for the first roundtable to please come here and join us on stage. Thank you. Right, so we can have just a small coffee pause for you to refresh yourself, and then we will be right back like in 5 minutes. Okay.
It's nice to have a little bit of rest, but the rest was for 5 minutes only. Can I call my participants to the front? There are people online that are waiting to join us. Izvolite.
Sit wherever you like. Sit here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alice, you can.
The
Alice?
Yes.
Between them. Yes. We have nice mixed panel. I'll just introduce you and then I'll ask the basic questions that you've got. And so try to be with.
We haven't.
We never got them, but
Yes.
it's okay.
You really got it by email. I think you did. I did.
No.
Okay. Georgia. And I'm saying, guys, checking. I must ask you with your experience talking to this living data and local communities to ensure the travel experience is contributing positively to the social and cultural experience. Basically formulated what I got. This first question and the second
I don't know, they haven't sent anything to our email. We were checking previously, and actually we asked the girl who's speaking here, the woman, and she just gave us
Like our presentation.
yeah, she gave us our description, not the question.
Because she sent to our familiar group the agency of communication, and we didn't receive it.
I'm pretty sure that you got an email. I think I saw your email in the circular mail.
No. Hello to everybody. Hi to all people that are online. We are trying to be on time and in time. Just a short introduction. My name is Renata Tomljenović. I'm coming from Croatia, from Zagreb, from the Institute for Tourism. Institute for Tourism is one of the oldest tourism research institute in Croatia. We've been established in 60s when tourism started to flourish by Croatian Chamber of Commerce at the time. In 80s, since when tourism started to be recognized and introduced at universities as the field of studies, Institute for Tourism turned into a research institution. And what we do, apart from our scientific work, we are also advising the all level of government on issue, obviously, of tourism development. And our mission is to improve condition for tourism development by sensitizing professional and the widespread public about value and importance of tourism. Why I'm here, it is, I believe the organizers have invited me by the fact that for last couple of years, we have been heavily involved with tourism development or planning for tourism development in the Adriatic Ionian region. You have seen that the Croatian representative has shown and gone through a number of flagship projects. 5 of those flagship projects were developed by me and my team at the Institute for Tourism. And also, just recently, 2 handbooks were completed. One was on gastro and one was on well-being tourism, also developed by myself and my colleagues from the Institute for Tourism. I've been given a task now to talk and to try to discuss what we have done and how to go forward after obviously the crisis that hit us hard, closed the border, and made tourism come to a halt. If you remember, in 2019, it was a huge uprising almost against tourism in many of the European destinations. If you could see, it spread from Dubrovnik via Venice right to Amsterdam, when the residents hit the street, Barcelona as well, and said enough is enough. And then COVID hit and tourism halted. If you recall that time, we had many webinars, especially colleagues from the universities will know that, also from professional organizations. And we all asked, will tourism recover? How will tourism recover? And what we are supposed to do to recover it quickly. And huge topic was sustainability. And suddenly we started to go from sustainability as something that was more in the area of wishful thinking into realizing that we if we want to survive economically and even collectively, we have to change how we behave. My interest in tourism comes from 2 sides. I'm actually working a lot on special interest tourism, especially all those facets of tourism related to cultural tourism. But also since my PhD in Australia in late 1990s, I had an interest in tourism being a social force. If you remember, and young people here nodding, we were told, every one of us and this generation, travel, widen your horizons, meet other people. It was believed that we will reduce stereotypes by that. We will understand each other better. And once we reduce stereotypes, we develop understanding of our joint humanity, that tourism can be a great force for peace. And now we have the crisis, just after the uprising, and we recover quickly. The question is, and I was actually wondering and asking myself, are we going now to take the issue of responsible and sustainable tourism development more seriously? We certainly are now aware that we live in a state of permanent anxiety. We are hit with crisis after crisis after crisis. And I think for everybody of us, be it older or younger generation, the issue is what kind of world we will leave behind us. And are we going to survive collectively if we don't continue, don't embrace the sustainability as the development philosophy? Or are we going to pretend that the world is going on and then nothing will really happen? And whether we are going to continue using this notion of sustainability as a nice topic for discussion during our coffee breaks, and yet be really obsessed with income, profits, and growth. And can we balance the both? I have here a distinguished group of speakers, both online and offline. I have first online, because you waited for a long time, Georgia Zuni, if I pronounce it correctly. Prolific scholar, I have come to her great work once I've started to look at the cultural tours of the Adriatic Ionian region as we were developing flagship. A really prolific scholar, working a lot and publishing to put this part of the world at the international research arena. Georgia is she's interested in response to the COVID crisis. She will tell us a little bit more about that later. And she also has a great experience in cultural route marketing and branding. Then I have trouble, and I've learned 5 minutes how to pronounce the name. I believe I will do it correctly. Athanasios Kalogeras. Have I done it right? Athanasios is a director, research director, something very close to me, of the Athenas Research and Innovation Center. He's one, I think we all have social scientists here. You are more technologically minded. The research conducted at the center is applied to smart city, smart building, smart energy, but also smart application for tourism and culture. And we'll have some questions for you later to tell us how to do it in tourism. With me here is my colleague from the Kidinum University, Daniel Pavlovic. He is associate professor there at the Faculty of Tourism and Hospitality Management. Thank you very much for coming. Daniel has specialized in tourism destination competitiveness. Myself, I have trouble with competitiveness. I'm actually thinking it more of a military term, how to compete and be better than others. So we'll provoke Daniel. How we do this competitive match, I think, with sustainability. And we have here two young people that are really inspiring, and it was worth coming here just to meet them. 𝐿𝐵𝐃 Franchi. I was sharing a cab with them last night, so I practiced how to pronounce the names. 𝐿𝐵𝐃 is climate activist. She is student of Economy of Sustainable Development and International Cooperation, and she is also coordinator of Fridays for Future Italy. So this young woman is not only a preaching sustainability, but as in English we would say, she walks her talk. Together with her is Emir Cirikovic. He comes from city of Plav, Montenegro, at the boundary of probably the best, the nicest national park in our region, Adriatic Ionian region, Paklenica National Park. He is trekking guide, blogger. He also walks his talk. He is a tour organizer and hotel operator. He is here dedicated to develop tourism to the benefits of the local community of Plav. And finally, we have here Michele De Vita. You are the last one because they took you almost like a host of this event. Michele is the Secretary General of Chieti Pescara Chamber of Commerce and Secretary General of this forum AIC. He is here primarily for the Mirabella Network. Mirabella Network is the I know I'll fail sometime. Mirabilia, third time lucky. Network is an interesting initiative of mapping cultural heritage site and listed at the World Heritage List. And you'll have time to tell us a little bit more later on about it. So I hope I set the floor. Warm up our speakers after I've introduced each of them. I'll start with academics. Daniel, we are talking a lot about competitiveness. And I know in tourism research, we are so much focused on these micro studies that look to solve the industry problems. At the same time, I call this competitiveness part of the macho strategies. When you think we compete, we outgrow, we outsmart, we have the best than the other, and we have to be competitive. As a more of socially attuned scientist, as I said, I have a little trouble with it. And now we have sustainability, which is about indicators, and basically, which is really about how to ensure that we live better world, not the same, but even better world, to the generations coming after us. Can competitiveness and sustainability work hand in hand?
So thank you very much for inviting me here. We're starting with provocative questions. So this is very important question. And if we talk about competitiveness, it means that sometimes we neglect that the competitiveness of tourism destination should be not the purpose for itself. It should be the purpose. It should be a tool to. We have tools to achieve competitiveness, to ensure economic and social well-being of destination. So this is the main point that I'm starting with. So I'm not like the mainstream competitiveness. If you want to compete, you have to be competitive, etc., etc. It's not the same in tourism like in other industries. On the other hand, sustainability is an issue that is present for decades, but I dare myself to say that we are still in the initiative and not in serious planning and linking it with achieving competitiveness. If we talk about sustainability, we say economic sustainability, okay? And that's something that could be pretty much linked with competitiveness, social, cultural, and also environmental. But we have to be aware that development of tourism from 50s until today was relying only on achieving economic effects. And this is something that brings us to the question how to stay competitive in the future, and also to imply and to focus on sustainability, because sustainability is expensive. Sustainability is something that doesn't bring money at the first place, but in a long term it does. So we have this COVID crisis, and it shows us many things to put a finger on here and ask ourselves what we are going to do next. Sustainability is a part of the initiative, but it should be a part of planning. We need effective tourism strategies that will link competitiveness and sustainability, but that's not an easy thing to do. So we're conducting a project with the development of competitiveness of Serbia as tourism destination, which is founded by the Science Fund of the Republic of Serbia, and we try to link that. So we started with the theory and the literature, and we use more than 300 papers dealing with competitiveness and sustainability. And I'm sad to say that we found only 5 indicators that are related to competitiveness measurement evaluation that refers to sustainability within the literature. So this is something that's not good. I don't think it is not possible to apply sustainability within the competitiveness, but the COVID crisis showed us that in the future, we have to think about how to be competitive and how to stay sustainable, because you have this approach of convergence, which means that every form of tourism should strive to sustainability. And if we look at future demand, we must be aware that the sustainability is very important to them, the future generations of tourists. So to be competitive, it's easy if you have over-tourism, but the COVID crisis showed us that the best managers and best destinations survived because they are capable, they have knowledge, and they know how to fight the crisis. So this is the next thing that we are discussing, and it's a crisis ban. Yeah.
What basically you are saying, if I can restate in a nutshell, is that if tourism is to survive, competitive would also mean sustainable. And it takes me to Georgia. You were basically working a lot, so not only on cultural tourism, but you were also as a marketing expert. You were thinking about the challenges and challenges in terms of taking us forward, doing something differently. Because if we continue doing the same thing that we do, just giving it another name, we are not going to progress further. You were actually also working and thinking about circular economy and applying circular economy philosophy to tourism. Can you tell us a little bit more about circular economy? Because sometimes we got these new terms that we think we understand, but we might very often do not understand its merit. And how do you see this taking tourism out of these growth paradigms into a sustainable, transformative agenda?
Καλησπέρα, εγώ θα μιλήσω στα ελληνικά. Χαίρομαι πάρα πολύ. Πιστεύω να υπάρχει μετάφραση. Χαίρομαι πάρα πολύ που είμαι μαζί σας σήμερα. Ελπίζω να ακούγομαι.
Just can I stop you for a while? We need to get our headphones to understand what you are saying.
Okay.
Yes, we are ready.
Τέλεια. Χαίρομαι πάρα πολύ που είμαι μαζί σας σήμερα και ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ για την πρόσκληση σε αυτή την πολύ σημαντική συνάντηση. Κυκλική οικονομία τι είναι? Είναι το μέλλον μας. Είναι να φροντίζουμε όχι μόνο για αυτή τη γενιά, όχι μόνο για τον πλανήτη μας, αλλά και για τις επόμενες γενιές. Να μην αφήσουμε κάτι σε κατάσταση χειρότερη από ό,τι είναι τώρα. Αν μπορέσουμε να το αφήσουμε και καλύτερο. Το νέο παγκόσμιο μοντέλο είναι η κυκλική οικονομία. Αλλά ας το δούμε αυτό στην πράξη. Τι σημαίνει αυτό και σε σχέση με τον τουρισμό. Ένας τουρίστας καταναλώνει 3 με 4 φορές περισσότερο νερό ανά ημέρα από το μόνιμο κάτοικο. Όπως επίσης, το 40% της ηλεκτρικής ενέργειας καταναλώνεται από τουρίστες. Αυτά είναι νούμερα τα οποία δείχνουν ότι η αειφορία και η κυκλική οικονομία δεν είναι θέμα marketing, γιατί διδάσκω marketing στο Πανεπιστήμιο του Πειραιά, είναι θέμα επιβίωσης. Άρα, δεν είναι πώς θα φέρουμε, και έγινε πολύ ωραία εισαγωγή από σένα Ρενάτα, δεν είναι πώς θα φέρουμε περισσότερους τουρίστες, πώς θα κοιτάξουμε το κέρδος. Πρέπει να δούμε ότι το κέρδος μας είναι η αειφορία. Γιατί μόνο έτσι θα επιβιώσουμε. Πρέπει, επομένως, τι κάνει το marketing, να δούμε και έναν ορισμό, γιατί όλοι λέμε ξέρουμε το marketing. Τι είναι το marketing? Δεν είναι διαφήμιση, δεν είναι πουλάω, δεν είναι κοροϊδεύω, δεν κάνω branding, δεν κάνω προβολή και προώθηση. Το πραγματικό marketing είναι, λέω την αλήθεια στον πελάτη, ότι έχει αξία για μένα και θέλω να του προσφέρω αξία, άρα πρέπει να του δείξω ότι μετράει για μένα, άρα θέλει αλήθεια. Πρέπει πρώτα να τον μάθω για να του προσφέρω αξία. Και πώς θα τον μάθω? Με έρευνα. Εδώ και 2 χρόνια ζούμε μια επανάσταση στον τρόπο που ζούμε και εργαζόμαστε. Και δεν το λέω εγώ, αυτό το είχε πει ο ιδρυτής της Airbnb, ο Τσέσκι. Όλοι είμαστε πιο απαιτητικοί. Ζήσαμε ένα παγκόσμιο σοκ. Δεν έχουμε συνέλθει. Περισσότεροι από εμάς βγήκαμε στερημένοι για ταξίδια. Αυτό είδαμε με το revenge travel. Υπήρχε πρόβλημα και από πριν, το είπες Ρενάτα. Από το 17 και μετά από την Κοπενχάγη έχουμε το tourism is dead. Έχουμε τη Βενετία, έχουμε το Άμστερνταμ. Έχουμε και βιώσιμες στρατηγικές και στη Μεσόγειο, Αδριατική και Ιόνια. Άλλοι, εκτός από τους revenge travelers, αυτοί που βγαίνουν για να ζήσουν το σήμερα χωρίς να προσέχουν, έχουμε και συνειδητοποιημένους. Έχουμε slow και spiritual και sustainable τουρίστες. Όλοι αυτοί, δηλαδή όλο αυτό το πακέτο, όσο και διαφορετικοί και να φαίνονται, έχουν τις ίδιες απαιτήσεις. Θέλουν αξέχαστες, καθηλωτικές, αλλά και ευθυντικές εμπειρίες. Δεν μπορούμε να τους κοροϊδέψουμε. Η κλιματική αλλαγή είναι η μεγαλύτερη πρόκληση στον κόσμο αυτή τη στιγμή. Άρα οι καταναλωτές και οι πελάτες απαιτούν διαφάνεια στις πρακτικές βιωσιμότητας και φιλικότητα στο περιβάλλον και στον τουρισμό και σε όλα. Επομένως θέλουμε αλήθεια. Οι καταναλωτές και οι πελάτες, πέρα από τα ωφέλη, όλα αυτά που λέω τα δείχνει η έρευνα τώρα μετά το 2022. Οι πελάτες, πέρα από τα ωφέλη που τους προσφέρει ένα προϊόν ή μια υπηρεσία, εστιάζουν στο αν το brand έχει ουσιαστικές ηθικές αξίες, όπως ενσυναίσθηση, αλληλεγγύη, σεβασμός και ανθρωπιά. Και αυτό θα ενισχυθεί τα επόμενα χρόνια και θα γίνει καθημερινότητα. Άρα το πρώτο που χρειάζεται θέλει έρευνα. Ό,τι δεν μετράται δεν διοικείται. Θέλει συνεργασία, πανεπιστήμια, φορείς και στοχευμένα έργα όπως το σημερινό που έφερε την ευκαιρία να μας φέρει κοντά. Άρα έρευνα με ειλικρίνεια και αλήθεια και μετά θέλει στρατηγική. Στρατηγική όμως τι, που να περιλαμβάνει όλους. Θέλει συνδημιουργία στον τουρισμό, στο τουριστικό μάρκετινγκ λέμε δεν έχουμε τα 7P, έχουμε το 8P που είναι το partnership, η συνέργεια. Δεν μπορούμε να επιβάλλουμε στρατηγικές, δεν μπορούμε να δημιουργούμε ταυτότητες και branding αν δεν εμπλέξουμε όλους και πρώτα τους κατοίκους. Μετά τους επιχειρηματίες και μαζί τους εργαζόμενους, όλους αυτούς για να δούμε τι τουρισμό θέλουμε πρώτα. Άρα τι τουρίστας ταιριάζει στο μέρος μας. Την Κέρκυρα την ξέρω, έχω κάνει μεταπτυχιακά εκεί, έχω διδάξει, την έχω ζήσει, ξέρω τι ευλογημένο μέρος, πίσω μου έχω διαλέξει μια παραλία της Κέρκυρας. Άρα θέλει συνδημιουργία. Ο άνθρωπος και οι αξίες του πρέπει να μπουν προτεραιότητα της ανάπτυξης προορισμών κοινωνιών. Αυτά είναι πέρα από στρατηγικές marketing και πέρα από πρακτικές. Αυτή είναι η ψυχή. Στρατηγικές και πρακτικές κάνουμε σε όλα τα έργα ευρωπαϊκά, Horizon, σε Αδριατική και Αιώνια. Θέλει όμως να φτάσουμε στην καρδιά όλων αυτών. Πρέπει και οι στρατηγικές μας να βάλουν τον άνθρωπο και τις αξίες του πρώτα. Αυτό είναι το πραγματικό marketing και το πραγματικό storytelling και branding. Άρα, να συνοψίσουμε έρευνα, στρατηγική, με αλήθεια και πάνω απ' όλα συνδημιουργία. Αυτό θα ήθελα να είναι το νόημα της πρώτης μου παρέμβασης. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. This is something about the partnership and collaboration, which is really very important. It's something that we've been talking for a long, long time, but especially in the countries of the Adriatic Ionian region, it seems that we have trouble understanding how to be competitors yet cooperate at the same time. At least this is experience that I have. Thank you, Georgia, for really fleshing out the most important issues that we are facing today. I go now to this inspiring young people. Alice, you're a climate activist. You advocate for sustainable tourism. I don't know whether you're very critical of us thinking, what have you done to get involved in this state that we are in today? You're obviously working in the area of tourism and thinking about actively engaging tourism with the local communities in the region. And you participated in the project together with Emir that had this as an aim. In your experience, can this really contribute to the positive social and cultural fabric of a destination? This is one part of the question, but at the same time, can the large number of tourists, can we embrace this strategy, having the large number of tourists at the same time?
Thank you so much. for inviting me. It's very an honor for me. I'm Alice, as she said. I think the journey, the discover has always been part of the human being. And we need to start about this. Just commerce, come into contact with each other, behind the prejudice, new perspective. It's part of our culture, and we need to start with this. But during the timing, the tourism become mass tourism. And for this reason, I would like to start with a provocative question. Does sustainability tourism exist? What is really sustainability? I think everyone using the word sustainability lately, but like any word, it loses their meanings. I imagine sustainability as the top of the mountain. There are many ways of reach it. Some way there is more longer. Some way are like climbing way, but because everyone starts with a different story, different perspective. But we have to know that our goal is to approach the sustainability. Emir and I set off to discover Montenegro, a journey that is part of the campaign of Made of Us with Balkans. This campaign is like 42 days. We are 12 vloggers around Europe and Western Balkans. 6 are from EU country and 6 from the Western Balkan countries. And the goal of this trip is to unite on diversity, unite the region, unite the culture, unite also with the youth. Emir is from Montenegro, and we visit together Montenegro, and travel with a local is a different trip because we go into the country. It's like more deep. And for this, I think what is sustainability tourism for me is it must be to respect the hospitality on the country we'll be visiting. Know and respect the wonders of the country that we visit. Respect the nature, of course. And of course, I would like to end this answer with a story. During this trip in Montenegro, I met Maya and Milan. There are a couple, and they restored a grandfather house. It's in the north part of Montenegro, and it's very difficult to arrive there. There is a mountain, and it's not a very common place where we have tourism. And when I asked to them, why are you living here? And they say, I live in here in the mountains because it's our choice. For us, we have chosen the sense of community and nurture, and also a slowless life. Maybe we, in this area, in this period, we live in a very quickly, where everything is very quickly and fast. Maybe we also talk about this. We would like to, we are every time we are so late, but where we would like to go. Is the right direction?
Thank you very much. Yes. I was thinking that only people born around 60s are feeling that everything is so fast, but the young people are feeling too, so it's not generational thing. Emir, you obviously travel with 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐚 for a while in this project, but also in 𝐵𝐺, Montenegro, where you are based. You are really passionate about developing tourism for the benefit of local community. And you're doing a lot of outdoor. And for that, you set up a tour company, if I have understood, as well as a hostel, because people have somewhere to stay. When I was actually reading your what you do, I recall back in 90s when I was sitting in a room with my supervisor and a couple of PhD students, when we were wondering whether the strategy of geographical dispersion, meaning spread people over wider territory to ensure sustainability or some aspects of sustainability was good strategy. The question is, okay, you can have a high concentration of people in the places that are set up and ready to receive a large number of people. If you spread them far away to places not ready to receive tourist activity, are you actually doing more damage than good? So with this thinking at background, my question to you is, how do we strike balance? We are taking people outdoor, obvious demand for outdoor activities are high after COVID, but at the same time, how do we ensure that these places are, that we leave them as pristine as possible?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me and thank you for the question. So I think the question of balance is by far the most difficult question to answer. I think when it comes to any subject, but specifically in tourism, because at the one hand, in my hometown, we are now experiencing in 𝐵𝐺, Montenegro, I would say a boom in tourism, outdoor tourism, mountaineering, everything along these lines. And at the same time, you can also see that while this boom is coming, you are at the same time almost destroying the very reason why the boom is happening. So while the tourists are coming, now people want to develop very rapidly and kind of take advantage of the moment. And I think the best way to find the balance, because the difficult thing is you cannot expect the people who have very low economic opportunity to not try and take advantage of this opportunity. So I think the way that you strike balance is through, like you said, the competition through sustainability is through providing grants and funding through other organizations and institutions such as the European Commission in order to, like my colleague said on the stage here, sustainability, the return on investment takes time. It takes a lot of time. So if a place like my hometown, for example, can have the investment in order to wait for the return on the investment, in order to wait for it, we can delay the instant, we can delay the destruction of the very place itself and reach that sustainable future without rushing and kind of skipping ahead of time.
So basically you are advocating, I would say, slower development, more thoughtful development, coupled with education of the local entrepreneurs and I guess tourists as well.
Yes.
Do you find, just a quick side question, do you find that actually tourists are in this sustainability agenda, do they behave ecologically acceptable or?
Yes, I believe absolutely so, especially tourists who are looking for outdoor adventures in the nature. They're very tuned into nature and they seek these experiences, and oftentimes they will come and actually be more conscious of this than the locals themselves.
Mm-hmm. So the learning is two ways.
Right.
Great. Now, we have this sustainability. We're talking lots about sustainability. In the second round, we will discuss whether do we really understand what sustainability is. But a question to Athanasios. I guess we can say that after the COVID hit us, that we moved more quickly from the rhetorical talk about sustainability to actions. And I guess the technology has come to the fore as well. You're working in this more technological side. Can you tell us how technology can be of assistance in tourism-related activities? And what your institute is doing specifically in that, on that front? Can you hear us? Turn on the microphone, please. We can't hear you.
Yeah, I just now got access to it because it was given by the organizers. So thank you for the invitation and the very good pronunciation of my difficult first name anyway. My institute and my research center, Athena Research Center and the Industrial Systems Institute are related to ICT-related technologies that could be applicable in a number of domains, including tourism. And the quest here is how the digitalization and the utilization of ICT could help resolving issues associated with sustainability. Sustainability is a very complex problem because there are quite contradicting elements. If you want to protect environmentally an area, it might hurt the economy. But if you target more on the financial aspects, then you might create some discomfort to the society that is living in a place. So all these dimensions should be somehow balanced and try to find a solution between them involving the people, and technology might help to this end. The approach that we propose would be to stick on data. Data is the oil of today, as it is said many times. So the idea is to take decisions driven by data. And the idea is how to measure sustainability. There are a number of indicator sets. One of them is ETIIS, which is a European set of indicators that is targeting sustainability in tourism. But there is a drawback in the approach that not everywhere, not in every area, data is available, or they are not available at the granularity that you would like to have them, or it is incomplete. So it's not very easy to have it, let's say, in a way that is automatic somehow and can supplement your decision making. So, but despite all these drawbacks, the idea of taking decision based on data and trying to benchmark your destination or benchmark an investment that you do in tourism and how it will affect the other sustainability pillars in the area is quite important, and could create a case for the destinations, for the territories. And here I would like to also mention an old concept that could be applicable, coming from actually biological sciences. So the item of carrying capacity in an area that identifies really the limit of acceptable changes that could be introduced in an ecosystem, which could be valuable for the tourism as well, because it involves measuring the impact of a specific action on the overall destination, so that this action does not really kill the goose that lays the golden eggs in the area. And this limit and how you set it also has a very strong root in the local ecosystem, because it requires a participatory approach, so that also the local population and the local enterprises give their opinions and try to set this and what is acceptable and what is not. So that's all at this point from my side, and I hope I provided an insight for your discussion.
Yes, I'm really glad that you mentioned the limits to acceptable change. In Croatia, we have just launching the Sustainable Tourism Development Strategy. The ministry is a heavy ambassador of the strategy, and we have, as a season starts, the first question was, how many tourists have arrived? Are we going to have more tourists than last year? And if not, the tourism industry is underperforming. When it comes to the out or down performing, culture is very important, obviously, and we always want to develop cultural tourism, believing that it brings so-called quality tourists, well-educated, that spend more. We were learning in school in the cradle of civilization. The Adriatic Ionian region is full of UNESCO heritage sites, but some are not as popular as Venice or Dubrovnik. So you believe in Mirabilia, I'm saying it right now, trying to develop these sites as tourism attraction, to use them as a lever for tourism development, and also applying technology in that process. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Allora, intanto porto i saluti di Vito Segnati, che è il direttore dell'associazione Mirabilia, di cui vorrei parlare. Ed è un'associazione composta da Union Camere e da 21 Camere di Commercio italiane. È un'esperienza nata nel 2012 con l'ottica proprio di promuovere i siti UNESCO, soprattutto diciamo delle aree minori, quindi siti UNESCO, siti che sono uniti da requisiti e valori storici, culturali, ambientali. È stata una visione che è nata non a caso da Matera, dal sud Italia, proprio perché si cercava di promuovere quelle località italiane, magari che non le grandi città conosciute da tutti, quindi Roma, Firenze, Venezia. Quindi si cercava di attrarre quel turista interessato a nuove, diverse mete dell'Italia, che comunque rappresentassero sempre la bellezza del nostro territorio. È stata una visione sicuramente molto, molto positiva, perché è stata anche apprezzata all'estero, e oggi Mirabilia, nata appunto da un'esperienza, un network tutto italiano, oggi guarda anche ai paesi europei, soprattutto a quelli più vicini e confinanti con l'Italia. Nasce poi perché le Camere di Commercio, esperienza delle Camere di Commercio che prima non si occupavano, oltre 10 anni fa, di turismo, se non in maniera abbastanza marginale. Eppure dal 2016, con la riforma del sistema camerale, alle Camere di Commercio italiane è stata affidata proprio una specifica delega sulla promozione del turismo e del patrimonio culturale. E quindi Mirabilia si inserisce oggi perfettamente in questa nuova competenza assegnata alle Camere di Commercio, visto che probabilmente le Camere di Commercio sono state viste come un valore aggiunto anche per la promozione turistica, proprio per la loro capillare presenza sul territorio e per la loro capacità di sviluppare le imprese, i rapporti soprattutto delle piccole e medie imprese. Ora, dicevo, Mirabilia guarda anche all'estero, ha recentemente sottoscritto un protocollo d'intesa con le Camere di Commercio francesi, e guarda con grande attenzione alla macroregione Adriatico-Ionica, tant'è vero che appunto abbiamo stipulato come forum delle Camere di Commercio dell'Adriatico e dello Ionio un protocollo d'intesa di collaborazione che ha portato alla realizzazione di un progetto che è in corso, che tra l'altro poi ne presenteremo un estratto. Abbiamo infatti proprio nell'ottica della rete, nell'ottica che ha sempre ispirato il forum delle Camere di Commercio, di presentarci in maniera unitaria, di presentarci con una grande macro area. Abbiamo pensato innanzitutto di mappare, abbiamo fatto una mappatura ben precisa di tutti i siti UNESCO che si trovano nell'area adriatico-ionica. Partendo da questa mappatura, che di fatto non esisteva, almeno in maniera così capillare, abbiamo poi creato una serie di video originali e specifici proprio per consentire una promozione integrale dei siti UNESCO minori dell'area adriatico-ionica. Penso che sia un'esperienza molto importante perché il turismo è un po' considerato il volano dell'economia di tutta quest'area. Devo dire che c'è stata una importantissima collaborazione di tutte le Camere di Commercio socie, perché questo lavoro anche di riprese video non è stato affatto semplice, perché ha richiesto tutta una serie di permessi da parte dell'autorità di gestione, da parte a volte di ministeri, a volte di anche autorità religiose, per poter accedere ai siti, soprattutto quelli meno conosciuti, e poterli filmare. Però penso che questo modo di lavorare in rete sia essenziale, soprattutto quando ci si rivolge al turista internazionale, quel turista internazionale interessato non solo alle grandi mete turistiche, ma interessato anche a conoscere nuovi tratti di costa, la parte interna dei nostri territori, le isole, e quindi Mirabilia, in questo caso in collaborazione con la rete delle Camere di Commercio del Forum dell'Adriatico e dello Ionio, sta portando avanti questo progetto che ritengo sia il primo passo per promuovere questi siti caratterizzati appunto dall'essere riconosciuti patrimonio dell'UNESCO.
Thank you very much. I was just waiting for translate to finish. We finished with the first round of questions, and we really went almost hierarchically from theory about competitiveness and sustainability, circular economy, application of technology in sustainable development of tourism, and examples of few projects. The roundtable format is here to be more dynamic than the presentation itself. So I guess as we were talking about various aspects of tourism development now and for the future, and as you listen to the roundtable participants, you must have had questions coming to your head, maybe disputed what we have said. Do we have any questions coming from the audience to spark discussion a little bit? So what do you think about this idea about what Emir and Alice were talking about, developing tourism through community connections? For example, what do you think about this? Is it feasible? Yes, please go.
So I have one question for Emir, yes, from Montenegro, yeah. So you're coming from the nature, Plav and everything, so it's great, yeah. But then you use the opportunity to make a business. And now you have the hostel, which attract the people to stay there. Is that related with sustainability or not? And how? So you have a privilege to do it, the one of the first, and then you are growing and growing and growing, and so that's maybe the treat.
Yes, I think when we talk about balance, it's absolutely the question to be had. As far as the hostel goes, yes, I agree.
You grab the idea.
Yes, you grab the idea and you kind of go. But maybe the same question can be put back to everyone else who works in tourism, I guess.
Exactly.
But I think when you go ahead and find somebody, I think that if somebody like me, for example, can set the way and show an example of how to do things in a more conscious way towards the environment, and my success can therefore bring better change to my hometown if I'm setting in place the proper example of how to go about it, for example. So I think anyways, the wave is coming. I think if the right people are in place to ride the wave and set the proper example for how we should or do business and shoot for the future, I think that kind of is the best way to go about it.
This is what we call in theory incipient stage of tourism development. And you'll see when it comes to the rapid growth, how it's going to go. Maybe there will be a similar roundtable in a couple of years, and we'll ask Emir about the development trajectory. Do we have more questions from the audience? Are you happy that we talk to you, or would you like to talk back to us? Yes, Fotis.
Good morning to everybody. First of all, I would like to thank you, the organizers, for the invitation to all of us and for the excellent initiatives. Actually, my name is Fotis Vlachos. I am representing the Ministry of Culture, Hellenic Ministry of Culture and Sports, and also being member, I have the privilege, honor and pleasure being a member of the USR thematic steering group in the Pillar 4 for sustainable tourism. So we are working the last 6-7 years all together, and it was an excellent presentation in the morning from the Croatian representative Lydia. They have the chairmanship and also have experienced a great cooperation. That's why the main point that was focused during the presentation also was this excellent cooperation between the member states, that we have to understand that it is not by definition easy. Okay, I mean, we are not in an area that we have cooperated the last 50-60 years, all of us together, and we are speaking about member states representatives. I say this. So just to understand how difficult it is to achieve sustainable tourism is the one part is this in the area, and the second part is the revision of the action plan that we are coming this period. So during the revision of the action plan, all this discussion is included. Actually, the first question that is coming, believe this or not, is the definition. Is it sustainable tourism enough or not? So we have already agreed in USR thematic steering group that the first thing that we have to understand is where we are, what we are doing, and next to see where should we go. So we are today 10 member states instead of 8 the last 5-6 years. So we have already included 2 new member states, North Macedonia and San Marino. We have a new area after COVID that it is a discussion that we have today, new reality after COVID. So we are coming to see if the definition is enough. For us, we think that this definition is extremely important to be kept as it is, but to understand the following, that it includes everything. We believe that it includes resilience, digitalization, greenery, culture, sea and rivers, and we think it should not be changed, for example, in the way that it is. I'm just coming back to say to you exactly the discussions that we have between us, but also it is an issue that it is under development. And this is the main important thing. The second important thing is that I'm coming to the cooperation. We had with our dear coordinator of this initiative, everything, I don't know, Fabio, cooperating so many years, and the main thing that we were discussing from the very beginning was the bottom-up approach and the top-up approach of the methodology. So how should we achieve the inclusiveness, the cooperation, and all these things that we are discussing? In practice, we faced this during the work of the thematic steering groups. So we had to identify specific projects, flagships, embedding projects, that we propose, first of all, the needs. And secondly, we would come to identify specific policies and projects and strategies that would be implemented in the ground. So, for example, we have the honor today to have Renate as coordinator that will work a lot on this. And we had flagship projects in the sustainable tourism sectors. They are 7. So what we discussed the last 3-4 months is that the action plan should take under consideration the fact that if we would not deliver in the ground these flagship projects, were not credible. So we can discuss every day for this, but if we will not cooperate in reality in the ground, it will be very difficult to provide more results in the sustainability that we are looking for. All these projects have a common ground, that they are based on the word sustainable. I mean, we are trying to achieve all this definition that we gave in the beginning. I'm not saying that it is perfect, but I'm saying that we are working on this direction in order to make the next steps. And the next steps for us is a new action plan that will include all this discussion inside, new priorities, new thematics, and to see in the ground the realization of the cooperation and the transforming all the results that we could have during this cooperation, that we believe that this will be the sustainable future for us in tourism. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fotis, very much. Indeed, when we were developing these flagship projects, we were believing that if they are not projects that are implemented in all member states, then it's useless to have that as a flagship project. So we insisted on developing the region and finding regional commonalities. But what I want to, and trying to really to provoke you, we are talking about sustainable tourism a lot, circular economy, green tourism, digitalization, and so forth. How do you feel about it? Is it that we give new names to the old things? Are these really new things? Are these really innovations? Do we really innovate? Or are we giving different names to something that we've been used to do? There are so many different issues here to discuss, so please. Do you have any thoughts? Share with us. Okay. Okay. So we'll go into another round of discussion with our speakers. I think I tried my best to wake you up, but I see that you are quite happy to listen what we have to say. We ended up with this potential of a UNESCO heritage sites to develop tourism and to probably to get some more regional, more even regional development. Oh, I was actually having questions for Georgia, but she disappeared from the screen. If she comes back, then we will ask her the question that I had for her. To this issue of competitiveness and sustainability. So what we have basically said at the outset, that the modern day competitiveness could not be achieved without taking care about all three pillars of sustainability. We're just out of a huge crisis, but the COVID hasn't stopped, and there was already war in Ukraine. It hasn't stopped. We have huge fires in Canada with the fog to come to Scandinavia soon and downdrift to us. So it's a crisis of the crisis of the crisis. Do we know what kind of crisis tourism is facing? And are we really ready, or we fancy ourselves that we are ready to face it?
You already answered the part of, yeah, we are fancy that, yeah. Just go one step back and to say something about the things that the colleague said to conclude the things about sustainability. We should talk about all three pillars, and we should be aware of that. And we should remember a very important thing, the costs of tourism and who will cover those costs. So it is all about money, it is expensive, and we should think about it. We should implement sustainability as much as we can in the destinations that are already 3S destinations, so much developed, yeah? And we also have the things that you are talking about, new local, national, emerging destinations that can apply sustainability from the beginning of the development. But you should be aware that some destinations, they stay at the initial point of development. But what about those ones who will go so much further? Economic impacts are the most important ones. That's why tourism is there. That's why we have extensive impact of travel and tourism, positive, negatives. but we should be aware that economic issue is important. It was important, and it will be important for many countries. And the crisis showed that. You know, you have so many countries depending on tourism. Within the COVID crisis, they had so many economic problems. No tourists, no income, like Montenegro. Yeah. So we should put the crisis in the context. Let's refer to the COVID crisis. We had this crisis that was a non-economic factor, pandemic. It showed up, but we have so many decisions within the human factor and also economic consequences. So we had 3 crises that were produced by non-economic factor, pandemic, by human factor, and also the economic factor. So this was not a crisis. This was a catastrophe in tourism. So we have to be aware of that. So we have so many good examples of dealing with crisis. But I took a look at the WTTC publication about COVID and the crisis and what we can learn from that, etc., etc. And I was reading it carefully, and I said, they are talking about crisis management, about risk management, which is developed for decades. Mm-hmm. And now we say, what we have learned from crisis. We learned that there is a crisis management, there is a risk management, but there is a risk management and crisis management in reality in the destination. So this is very important thing that we, the people, the DMOs, the ones, the government, etc., who are managing destination, will have to ask themselves. We have 2 types of crisis management. The one is institutional, the other one is functional. Ask yourself, what kind, did you have any of those types of crisis management during the COVID, or you were just thinking about dealing with the situation, so you had to do something? And we had so many good examples of dealing with crisis, Corfu, especially with the cruises, you know, with the digitalization, with the steps they took to make all arrangements with the bureaucracy, etc., etc. It was very good, but does it exist anymore after the crisis? So what about things that we learned from crisis? I have an impression that many destinations, when they, I will not say, but okay, let's say they finished with the crisis. Now we have a recovery. Now we will throw away all of all of the things that we did during the crisis, and we're going back to normal. Just give me a second, because normal is transformation towards new normality. That was one expression. I had to be honest, I hated this term, new normality. What does it mean? That everything before was abnormal. It was not usual. Now we have something new. And you also have people during the crisis, with the beginning of the COVID crisis, they were like saying, the managers of destination, managers of hotels, the professors, they were saying, oh, tourism is dead. It doesn't exist anymore. We should forget about tourism. Slowly. We should not think like that. So I was thinking this morning, and I wrote some things that we learned from COVID crisis. Maybe it's more on the macro level and it's wider, it's global thinking, but we should all think about that. First thing, we had a problem with collaboration and coordination within the COVID crisis, which is the internal part of crisis management. So we don't have crisis management. We didn't have crisis management because we managing crisis before crisis, we're managing crisis during the crisis, we're managing crisis after the crisis. Within the communication, within setting rules, within setting programs, within setting goals, etc., within the risk management, because we want to prevent crisis. This is one thing. The another thing is partnership within destination. The crisis showed us that the partnership should grow, because we should not talk about competition. We should talk about cooperation or co-opetition within the tourism destination. We should talk about cooperation with the emerging markets. The crisis showed us that. The main, sorry, not emerging market, tourism generating market and destinations. We need to have more close ties. The other thing that crisis showed us is a workforce. I published, I was interviewed by one magazine in Serbia at the beginning of the crisis, and they said, we don't want to publish this. Why? Because I said, they were talking about this is the crisis, it will go, tourism will recover, it's all true. And this is the crisis that tourism will manage to recover from. But we did so much mistakes, especially about the workforce in tourism.
Mm-hmm.
I said to them in that interview that you invested time, money, education, training those people. They were like working in tourism for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And now is the crisis. You didn't think about the things, what if you don't have money? So you want to save your company, you want to save, okay, that's true. I should admit that it's okay. But what did you do? What did you do? You let people go. And now we have problems. People will not won't come back to work in tourism. So this is another problem. And government as a key stakeholder in crisis is something that is very important, and the crisis show does that. So the other things, and I will finish because I talk too much as every professor. Another thing that I wanted to say, to ask some questions. I was thinking about it, about this COVID crisis, and we have to have a more wider look at it. Is globalization unstoppable force after this crisis?
Yeah.
We can leave continuous growth logic? Is consumerism our identity, and will it be our identity in the future? And what about neoliberal capitalism? Is it the best system for organizing and resource allocation, which is very important regarding sustainability? Because we don't want tourism, by developing itself, to destroy itself. So I will talk later.
Yes, when you're dealing with professors, we are programmed at 45 minutes bite-size information. Thank you very much. I know that you tackled a lot in quite short time and set the stage for an interesting conversation during the lunchtime. Georgia, you quickly, we quickly lost you, but what we wanted actually to ask you, and following on Michele's Mirabilia project, is this ideas of a culture, ideas of a cultural roots are nice because they are actually alerting us or bring forward the importance of a common cultural heritage that we share in this region, but also we are trying to develop them as a tourism product. Now, the notion of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe and within the Adriatic Ionian region, within the 𝐬𝐶 strategy, strongly promoted as one of the tourism development tool. What is your opinion on that? Are the cultural roots still the project within the heavy realm of a culture, or is there some progress made to develop it into a tourism product?
Θα μιλήσω πάλι στα ελληνικά, άρα σας δίνω χρόνο να βάλετε τα ακουστικά σας. Νομίζω ότι ήταν πάρα πολύ σημαντικά τα ερωτήματα και από τον Γιώργο τον Βλάχο οι επισημάνσεις και από τον Ντανιέλ. Εγώ θεωρώ ότι όλα πηγάζουν από ένα πράγμα, από τον πολιτισμό μας. Όλες οι λέξεις, όλη η ανάπτυξη, σε βιωσιμότητα, εφορία, νέες λέξεις, digital, smart, green, όλα αυτά πηγάζουν από τον πολιτισμό μας. Στην Ελλάδα είχαμε έναν φιλόσοφο σύγχρονο, τον Αδαμάντιο Κοραή, που είπε ότι η κουλτούρα αλλάζει με 50 χρόνια στοχευμένης εκπαίδευσης, μόνο με στοχευμένη εκπαίδευση και παιδεία. Άρα, ο πολιτισμός είναι για μένα η βάση και εκεί μπαίνει η αξία των πολιτιστικών διαδρομών. Και για να μιλήσω για την σημασία των πολιτιστικών διαδρομών θα δώσω ένα παράδειγμα. Πριν 2 χρόνια όταν έφτιαξε τη στρατηγική για τις πολιτιστικές διαδρομές του USR, για το Συμβούλιο της Ευρώπης, κάναμε έρευνα, για να δώσω και να απαντήσω και στον Γιώργο τον Βλάχο που είπε για τη συνεργασία. Κάναμε έρευνα και υπάρχουν τα μοντέλα, πώς γίνονται participatory approaches, έρευνα σε όλους τους εμπλεκόμενους, τους stakeholder 8 χωρών, σε όλη την διαδρομή. Όλοι αυτοί συμφώνησαν σε 4 πράγματα, κυρίες και κύριοι. Ότι η περιοχή, όταν τους ρωτήσαμε για το branding, τι είναι η περιοχή Αδριατική Ιόνια, μιλήσανε για τη θάλασσα βεβαίως, μιλήσαν για τον αέρα, μιλήσανε για τη φύση, άρα η γη μας, το sustainability, και το 4ο ήταν η φωτιά, οι άνθρωποι, οι φιλόξενοι και οι ζεστοί. Και όλα αυτά εμένα μου θύμισαν τα 4 στοιχεία της φύσης, γιατί όταν κάνεις branding πρέπει να πηγαίνεις πίσω, να διαβάζεις, για να δεις την ταυτότητα. Δεν φτιάχνεις ένα brand, αναδεικνύεις την ταυτότητα που υπάρχει. Αυτά τα 4 στοιχεία της φύσης, κυρίες και κύριοι, τα είχε πρώτα ονοματίσει ο Εμπεδοκλής στην Κοσμογονία. Και όταν μπήκα και διάβασα, γεννήθηκε στη Σικελία στην Ιταλία και πέρασε αυτές τις 8 περιοχές. Ζούσε σε αυτές τις Αδριατική και Ιόνια περιοχή. Έτσι βγαίνει το brand. Και αν δείτε, αυτό που ενώνει όλα είναι το εθήρ που έλεγε ο Αριστοτέλης. Δηλαδή τι? Ο αέρας που ενώνει αυτά τα 4. Αυτό έδειξε η έρευνα ότι είναι οι πολιτιστικές διαδρομές. Αυτό είναι το εθήρ, ο air. Και αν βάλετε τα αρχικά του είναι air της περιοχής. Αυτό που είχε πει ο Εμπεδοκλής και ο αέρας. Αυτό τι θέλω να πω, μόνο όταν γίνεται με σωστή διαδικασία, με μεθοδολογίες σύγχρονες, αλλά να αναδείξουν την ουσία και την αξία, τότε βγαίνουν σωστά αποτελέσματα και βγαίνει η ουσία και μιας επωνυμίας και ένας προορισμού και βγαίνει και το sustainability. Μόνο με συμμετοχικότητα και με σωστές διαδικασίες, συνεργασία με εμπλεκόμενους φορείς, για να απαντήσω το ερώτημα, αυθεντικότητα και διαχείριση, να εμπλέκουμε τις τοπικές κοινωνίες από την αρχή. Να τους ζητάμε ερμηνεία, αφήγηση, να μας κάνουμε σύγχρονα μέσα για τοποθεσίες, παραδόσεις, ήθη, έθιμα. Με εκπαίδευση, και εκεί να δούμε αυτό που λέει ο Ντανιέλ, να αναπτύξουμε και να καταρτήσουμε ικανότητες, να ενδυναμώσουμε τις τοπικές κοινωνίες και τους εργαζομένους, να αναλάβουν ενεργό ρόλο στη διαχείριση. Γιατί μίλησε για management πιο πριν, crisis και risk management. Πώς να γίνει crisis management όταν δεν ξέρουμε το management, δεν ξέρουμε αποδίοικηση, δεν ξέρουμε στην τσέπη μας αποδίοικηση. Όλοι, αν πάμε 8 στις 10 επιχειρήσεις παγκοσμίως με έρευνα, δεν ήταν ανθεκτικές, δεν ξέραν όχι να κάνουν risk management, δεν ξέραν το γενικό τη διοίκηση. Άρα πρέπει να πάμε back to roots, πίσω, και να δούμε πρώτα να ερευνήσουμε που είμαστε τώρα, όπως είπε ο Γιώργος ο Βλάχος, που είμαστε τώρα με έρευνες και με σωστό τρόπο αυτοί που ξέρουν τις μεθοδολογίες να βοηθήσουμε τις τοπικές κοινωνίες, να συνεργαστούμε μαζί τους και να υιοθετήσουμε στρατηγικές και να σχεδιάσουμε πολιτιστικές διαδρομές με ουσιαστικές αλληλεπιδράσεις για το όφελος όλων. Αυτό θα είναι η βιωσιμότητα στην πράξη και όχι η βιωσιμότητα στις λέξεις και μόνο στα ευχολόγια. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
Thank you very much, Ǩoģe, for sharing your thoughts about it, and also following on from Daniel, the tourism sector in itself is not really perceived or recognized for its ability to deal effectively with the crisis. And I remember a long time ago when the island dismantled its system of tourism board and economic crisis hit, all the tourism sector was talking about subsidized rates and tax relief benefits and so very short-term relief measures, and really failed to think long-term. And what you are basically saying, and the COVID-19 and response to crisis has also showed us that tourism industry as a whole has a hard time thinking long-term and strategically. As well, tourism industry is criticized for not being terribly innovative. I guess these are just different dimensions of the same mindset. Anastasis, how do you see this ability of tourism industry to innovate?
I presume you're referring to me. It's Athanasios, really, not Anastasios, but it's a different name. But anyway.
Sorry. I always make third time
problem,
mistake.
no problem. The meaning is almost the same in Greek, so it could be. The idea of how you will make a destination more resilient, more resistant to crisis, I would like to come back to a thought that was given by a previous speaker about the new normality. In my view, the society and the destination is really a complex system. So when a crisis hits an area, what happens is that this system finds a new point of stability. So a new normality is really a new point of stability. And really, when you want to increase the resilience of a territory or of a destination to a crisis, you have to think three main things. The first is, what is the current state where you are? The second is where you want to go, so what is the target? And the third is there are many routes to go there, so you have to select one that is somehow efficient. According to this, I would say there are three main issues that are involved. The first is you need to have to involve everybody that is relevant. So this is a networking, this is a participatory approach. You have to involve everybody. The second is you have to give skills. Everybody talked about skills, so upskilling, reskilling is very essential. And the third, in order to depict the current state and in order to potentially find effective ways to reach the new state that we want to go, technology and innovation might play a role. Let me give you some examples. We are undergoing an era that is called the fourth industrial revolution. So coming from the manufacturing sector, you have a model that is a mainstreaming in all application areas, really. So you have sensing equipment, which is deployed. You have data that is accumulated and analyzed. And then you could have innovative services based on machine learning, based on AI, that could help you do some reasoning and find some solutions. So this could be applicable also in tourism. For instance, Georgia talked about circularity. So imagine that you have a hotel and that you throw a lot of food away, so this is non-sustainable. Could you find an AI algorithm that could recognize what type of garbage you have, what type of food is thrown away, and try to influence this to your clients? Or you have cultural heritage monuments that are affected by climate change, by the presence of too many tourism. So could you have some algorithm that could detect defects on the monuments and steer appropriate preservation efforts and initiate, let's say, the restoration process more quickly? So I believe that the technology, the innovation could provide a nutshell on how to help us become more resilient. This is not the only one. You should involve the people, you should increase skills, but altogether this could help us survive in the new point of stability that is inevitable. You cannot be at the same state forever, because things happen, and so the system moves to a new point to survive. So I think this could be an answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You pointed out well, it's Alice in Wonderland. If you don't know where to go, every road is a good road. And sometimes it seems that the tourism industry is responding in a way. It's responding, and we'll see where it's going to get us. following on the technology, I'm actually for Michele. I have actually one aspect of this technological innovation in the presentation, especially of a cultural heritage. In Croatia, we have huge boom in interpretation centers, all relying on a technology. I'm probably old-fashioned, and you correct me if I'm wrong. But if I have to travel to a cultural heritage, to be learning about the same heritage through technology devices, through QR codes, through again learning from the machine. What is then the value of this digital approach to interpretation of cultural heritage? Or another way, how to balance presentation of cultural heritage between the preservation of heritage, the visitor management, and the interpretation through human or technology.
Oh, thank you. Come associazione Mirabilia e le Camere di Commercio che aderiscono a Mirabilia ci muoviamo proprio su queste direttive: promozione, formazione e innovazione. Come promozione, infatti, annualmente viene organizzata una borsa internazionale del turismo culturale, e c'è anche una sezione dedicata a food and drink che permette di far incontrare centinaia di imprese che vengono dai paesi, che vengono dai vari siti di UNESCO, dalle Camere di Commercio dove si trovano siti UNESCO, con buyer provenienti un po' da tutto il mondo. Poi svolgiamo attività di formazione, questo attraverso continui webinar e corsi a cui facciamo partecipare appunto sia funzionari camerali sia imprenditori o neoimprenditori dei vari territori, e c'è anche un master che promuoviamo come Mirabilia su figure specializzate nell'accoglienza attraverso l'Università di Perugia. Nell'ambito dell'innovazione, le Camere di Commercio italiane hanno ormai avviato da tempo una rete di cosiddetti PID, una sigla che sta per Punti Impresa Digitale, e come Mirabilia viene promosso annualmente un premio che si chiama Top of the PID Mirabilia, proprio destinato a individuare e premiare le migliori idee di impresa nell'ambito di Impresa 4.0, quindi digitalizzazione applicata al settore del turismo. E vediamo come siano veramente tante e molto interessanti le idee che vengono presentate spesso da giovani, da start-up, anche perché c'è appunto da sottolineare come il turismo, che costituisce veramente il volano dell'economia per tutta questa area, è una grande opportunità di occupazione, ma anche di creazione di impresa, soprattutto declinata verso l'imprenditoria giovanile e l'imprenditoria femminile. Quindi questo è promosso attraverso Mirabilia. Oggi nella tavola rotonda la parola sostenibilità è stata declinata in vario modo. Per Mirabilia mi sento di dire che sostenibilità corrisponde al rispetto e alla conservazione del patrimonio culturale, storico e ambientale. Questa è la direzione su cui stiamo andando, e il modello di azione è un po' quello della rete. Ecco perché poi è diventata naturale appunto la collaborazione tra Mirabilia, le 21 Camere di Commercio italiane sede di siti UNESCO, chiamiamoli minori, e il forum delle Camere di Commercio dell'Adriatico dello Ionio, che è un grande network che esiste da oltre 20 anni e che appunto ha unito e permette di lavorare insieme le 40 Camere di Commercio dell'area adriatico-ionica. E da lì appunto è nato questo progetto che vi ho accennato prima, progetto che è partito dalla mappatura dettagliata di sito UNESCO ed è arrivata alla creazione di materiale video originale che permetterà non soltanto a Mirabilia e al forum di promuovere in maniera unitaria, omogenea, tutta quest'area verso quei turisti che sono attratti da mete sostenibili, che sono attratti da mete minori, ma che hanno una bellezza straordinaria e portano dietro centinaia di anni di storia e di cultura. Quindi ecco, questa è la direzione che ci siamo dati, e tra l'altro sottolineo ancora una volta come sia stato possibile grazie proprio alla rete, grazie alla collaborazione delle varie camere di commercio, perché altrimenti senza questa collaborazione sarebbe stato molto difficile riuscire ad arrivare in tutti i siti e creare questo prodotto promozionale, che naturalmente verrà messo poi a disposizione di tutte le camere di commercio. Sarà un ulteriore strumento per promuovere verso il turismo internazionale l'area adriatico-ionica, vista non come tanti pezzi separati, ma in una visione unitaria.
Thank you very much. When I listen to this, and especially when I'm now listening Croatian translation, which was excellent, I'm really kind of a little bit jealous that I was not part of that. Very inspiring, and I know how much work stands behind these such ambitious projects. I would like to bring this closely to an end with asking Alice, given that she's student of economy of sustainable development and international cooperation, a question: when we were developing a flagship on Fortis Destinet, it is a flagship project that aimed to improve tourism education for sustainability, both in continuous education and at the level of master degree and higher. When I was researching about tourism education for sustainability, sustainability is not my prime topic of interest, but I was actually amazed, and then I discovered a number of research coming from students finishing tourism education from Australia, that was probably a leader in education for sustainability, via UK, some European institutes, that students still today are coming out with tourism degrees, and often tourism degrees with sustainability prefix in it, not really understanding what sustainability is. Are you actually wondering, as a student of a program dealing with sustainability, what is your experience? To what extent your program meets your expectation when it comes to learning about this dimension? And if you have any experience of how sustainability is dealt with within the formal tourism education program at tertiary level and higher?
It's a very hard question, I think.
But I know you are able to answer it.
Okay. Yeah. I study, I have only one exam and I would finish my bachelor in Italy, and I study, as she said, sustainability development, international cooperation and conflict management. And for this, I'm very interested about this discussion also about how can manage the crisis and how can also the companies can manage it, but focus on education. I think it is very important that in a very different level, the role of education about sustainability. But there is a point. I study sustainability. All of my, the major of my friends study sustainability in the high school or in the university. But I think we are very late. I don't know what can I say. Yes, we should do the best that we can, and we should improve and learn more. But in this moment, the situation is not so easy, and how can I say? I don't know. I live in Italy.
You would say that education is lagging behind a little bit.
I think it's the culture. It could be the move for the changement, and I think is very important. But right now, if they say, Alice, what you would like to do, what is your best advice? I say, okay, learn, study a lot, but not only this, because we are in the second phase of this crisis management, and we also need to act and improve. And I don't know, we talk about the cost. Yes, if we just, the action today is very hard, then there's a lot of cost for act today. But if we don't act today, I think the cost would be higher. And for this, I think in this event, my advice is to just create a network with all the companies and like you do, but also I think, in my opinion, maybe it's like utopistic opinion, but we can't only the business and the company face this emergence alone. Also about tourism, we have to create a network also with the institution, with the young generation and the community, local community. And yes, I think it's a very hard and big work, but if we would like to also climate justice, like everyone have an opportunity, I think it's very important.
Thank you very much. I think this is a little miracle that we are finishing, we are actually respecting the timetable almost to a minute. Thank you very much. I think we have discussed here, and the organizers have put a really nice group of people with a variety of experiences and expertise to discuss tourism after COVID. So I think if I can wrap it up a little bit, is that we have opened more fronts than actually given answers to any of them. In a nutshell, we have a tourism industry, tourism entrepreneurship, which needs to survive, primarily to survive economically, is faced with a number of issues now, but it seems that the tourism industry is has recovered or is in the best part of recovery, and we are on the best path to apply all thinking how many tourists will come this year and how much income we are going to generate. Fortunately, comes new generations that are holding us more responsible in how we conduct business, and some research, especially from the cultural creative paradigm and transformative tourism, is actually saying that the tourism industry is not going to change from within. The tourism industry will change when there is a critical demand from tourists for the industry to behave economically responsibly. But when I say economically, I mean in socially responsible as well. Fair wages, career paths for employment, addressing the gender issues and the similar stuff. Of course, addressing the issues that it comes to environmental sustainability is equally important. In Croatia, tourists are already asking, well, this is not done, why the rubbish is not sorted, why the even people from Scandinavia demand all the scents to be removed from the houses because they are considered health dangerous. Recent research, just a little story, research that we are doing with the people that are renting their home and apartments to tourists, is actually showing us when we are talking about sustainability, they think about big investment. They think investment into solars and into heating pumps, and they see it as out of their league. When we started to talk to them that sustainability is not all that, but that they behave sustainably when they promote the local restaurants, then when they promote produces of the local farmers, when they organize tours to introduce tourists to local cultural heritage, when they try to save water, when they use a cotton instead of synthetic materials. And then he says, oh yes, but we are doing this already. What actually we are going to discover that the number of people, tourism service providers have embraced a new system of values without necessarily being aware that this is the part of sustainability agenda. So I think probably it's not as sometimes tourism is not as behind as might look like. When it comes to the technology, tourism is not really, tourism sector is not really being on technology and being on innovations. And probably questions for the next round, for the next round table is, innovation means improving what we are doing already. By improving and improving and improving on what we are doing, are we making real progress, or are we needing to be really inventive? And how tourism is doing on this dimension of inventiveness, doing really new things. So when I'm saying we have given some answers and open another ones, we might come together at some point in time and see if life is sustainable, or the development stage of tourism, the economic sustainability took overriding importance over other issues of sustainability. We might see 𝐼𝐸𝐃, who would lead the way in improving education for sustainability, as she's already living this agenda and thinking critically about how the system is set up. Competitiveness is going to be sustainability is going to be the part of competitiveness. I agree, we all have to learn, and I think very important it is that we talk to each other, but that we know that we are talking, that we know the stuff about what we are talking. We'll probably use the term sustainability here about 100 times. And if I'm going to ask any one of you, including myself, what really sustainability is, I will give you a definition. If I have to say, okay, what really I have to do to make tourism sustainable, this is another dimension of sustainability. And finally, I think what is important to think is sustainability is a process. It will never end, and it will never be perfect. And once we reach a certain level of sustainability, there will be another milestone and another milestone. We shouldn't be discouraged. Think differently, but most importantly, change the value set. If we don't change the values by which we operate, we will not change our behavior. And I believe strongly, as tourism can be a peace industry, tourism can, it's so huge, and if we develop it correctly, we can use tourism not only to make it better for the tourism and for its economical effect, but we can use tourism as a vehicle to change the worldwide value set. And then we will change, and we will change the way we behave and put conditions in place to ensure our planetary survival. And this note, I would end, and probably we now have lunch, and I hope we'll be inspired to discuss it further during the lunch. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I really have to thank, a round of applause is also due to translators. From what I've listened, they've done an excellent job. So please, a round of applause for them.
Thank you very much. Just logistic information, we are now having a short break, and I invite you all to join us for a light lunch downstairs. And we will be back here around 2:30 p.m. so we can have all the time to start with the second round table, which will be focusing on the cruise sector. So be sure to be here, to be back here in the afternoon in order not to miss all the very interesting discussion that we're going to have in the afternoon. So I'll see you back here in a while. Oh, also, since our Secretary General mentioned the �mirabilia project and all the work we have done to map and to develop videos and images of our amazing Adriatic and Ionian era, we have a video to show you. So we will just leave you with this 2 minutes, very short video, and then we will see you at lunch. Thank you.
Picture class.
Α, μην ακούγεται έξω. Ναι. Μ' ακούτε? Τι σαν τα ηχεία κλείσει. Ναι, μ' ακούτε? Τι κάνει τώρα αυτό?
Ναι, ακούμε.
Ακούτε να πω, έχει κάτι το σήμα. Μίλα λίγο εσύ.
Ναι, ακούμε. Στα ελληνικά, ναι. Ναι. Ακούω και στα ιταλικά. Ναι, μια χαρά. Έχει λυθεί, ναι. Να είστε καλά. Μαζεύονται στις 2:30 και ξεκινάμε στις 3. Να είστε καλά. Γεια σας. Ναι, κανονικά. Γεια σας.